To start this drawing, we will be using a white colored pencil to sketch in the flower as well as the bee. In this video, we will be focusing on sketching in the flower. We will start by sketching a line in the lower left side of the canvas, and this will be the main branch of our flower. We will also have several branches that will branch off of this main limb. We want these all to have a curve and flow nicely and not be too rigid. We'll then start drawing in the petals of the flower, and these flowers will be very loose, puffy-like, so we'll draw in these long strands with our pencil for the flower shape, kind of like the shape of a bowl. Some of these strands, although most of them are curved in the form of a shallow U, some of them have a bit of a S shape to them, just for variety. And we don't need to add too much detail to these flowers, as that will come in when we are adding the colors. We just want to focus on the placement and how much space these flowers will each take up. We will now draw in what is called the receptacle of the flower, the part at the base of the flower, and this you can draw by drawing in a simple U shape or also the shape of a cup, several little triangles that make up what you would call a crown. We will also draw some simple leaves, and this can be done by drawing the stem, and then the leaf itself we'll draw by adding in a U shape with a little tip at the far end that comes to a point. You can also add in a middle line to the leaf where the two halves of the leaf meet. We will draw several of these leaves along the stem of our flower, and it would be great if you can make these leaves of different sizes, some larger, some smaller. And one last thing I will say for this segment is that later on in the class we will be adding in another flower group at the bottom side of our canvas, but that will be done later on. For now, this is our flower complete. In the next video, we will start sketching in our bee. We will start the bee sketch by going to the right of the uppermost flower, as you can see me doing now, and drawing an oval. So I've established a central point for my oval, and I will draw the oval around this central point. As you can see, I'm not drawing one simple line. Instead, I am slowly building up my pencil line. This allows me to adjust the size of my oval by building it up little by little. This way I can get a nice clean oval shape, and once I'm happy with it, I can mark it harder with a pencil and get a nice firm line. This is only done afterwards. Now I'm adding a small point for the back end of the bee where the stinger will be. This step isn't necessary, but if you like to do it, that is fine. I'm going to go in with my ruler and draw a center line for my oval, and I will carry this line past the left hand end of the oval. And I will also draw a line along the top end of the oval, in other words, the top end of the abdomen of the bee. By doing this, I can see where to place the thorax of the bee. I know that the thorax shouldn't be any higher than where the line is of the top of the oval, so you can see the top of the thorax is just at the top of the line that I drew along the top of the abdomen. Another thing I will point out is that both of these shapes overlap each other just a bit. In the same way that we drew the thorax and oval of the abdomen, we're going to also draw the head, having it overlap and also be along the top reference line that we drew for the thorax. Before moving on, I'm going to go in and do a few adjustments, a little bit of editing to my shapes to get them just as I want them. And I urge you to do this as well. Every so often when you're drawing, pause and go back and do some tweaking, adjusting in order to get it more perfect and more as you want it. You can look at your reference photo and compare it to your drawing and see what needs improved. After drawing a simple curved shape for the stinger, we will now go in and start drawing the wings of the bee. So the wings come out of the thorax and are angled back and upwards. They reach about halfway back along the abdomen, That's why you see me drawing a halfway line along the abdomen oval. And this gives me a reference point for how far back to draw the wings. I like to think of wings of these animals as curved triangles. So they're in the shape of a triangle, but they don't have the pointy ends. Instead, they're curved and soft at the ends. And that's what we will do for these wings. Each side of the bee has two parts to its wing, an upper part and a lower part. The upper part is a bit larger and wider, and the lower wing is smaller and more narrow. We will also draw the far side wing that we will only see part of. Remember that it is hidden a bit by the wing that is closer to us, so we will only see this small fragment of that wing. Continuing the sketch of the bee, we will now sketch in the legs. I will start by doing the lower part of the back leg of the bee. And for these legs, we will start drawing a line to give us an idea of where the leg is and which way it's going. And then we will go in and surround and add muscle, you can say, to this structure or to this frame that we have drawn in by drawing the lines. You can fill out these legs by adding these long oval-like shapes to the legs. They don't have to be too complicated or detailed. We will also draw in the rest of the back leg, which goes towards the front of the bee and attaches to the thorax near where the other legs attach. We will finish off drawing the legs by drawing the legs that are on the other side of the bee. These are partially hidden by the body, so we will only see the ends of them. We will also draw the antennae, the mandibles, and other appendages. We will finish off by drawing in the eye. In the next videos, we will be bringing our Posca markers or other acrylic markers you may have and coloring in our bee and flower. So let's get our markers ready and get to coloring. We're going to come over here at the lower part of our painting and we will add in the last flower. These will flow up as if they were extending off of the main flower branch off of our canvas. And we will have two branches. And at the end of them, we will have the flowers. We will have the flowers flowing up and pointing towards the bee, as you can see me doing right now. By pointing the flowers towards the bee, and most importantly the bee's head, we will be moving the viewer's eye towards the bee, which is the central focus of our drawing. To start, we will use a yellow Posca marker to color in the head. So we will just fill in the entire head with this yellow marker. You may need to add in several layers to get the yellow to show up bright enough. Please remember that you need to allow sufficient time between each layer so that the Posca marker can dry, because if you go in too soon and add in a second layer over a sticky Posca marker initial layer, it can gum up your marker. We will now come in with an orange Posca marker, and this color we will mainly add in on the right side of the bee's head, somewhat in the shape of a crescent, and also a little bit around the lower part of the eye. I will now come back to using my yellow Posca marker and add just another layer right at the front of the bee's head, because we want that area to be the brightest and appear that it is glowing in the light. I'm now going to use a brown Posca marker to come in and color in with a first layer the antennas, as well as the little appendages at the mouth and the mandibles. I'm also going to use a little bit of yellow to add a highlight, or in other words, a light area on the antenna and the mandibles. So I'll do that now. Next, we will use a white Posca marker to add in some more highlights, and we will focus on the antenna, mandible appendages, and also the front part of the head. As I've said, we want this part to be the brightest and really appear that it is glowing with light. I will also add in a bit right along the top of the eye, in other words, right above the eye. And we want the white decently thick on the very front of the head. And I will finish off with a small speck of white on the eye itself to give it a highlight or a reflection of light on the eye. Next, we will go in with a brown Posca marker to add in a bit of hairs, and we will do this mainly on the right side of the head. We will leave the left side in light, and we won't add any there. So we want these to be just like little specks or little tick marks to represent the fuzziness of the bee. Doing the same thing that we just did with the brown, we will now go in with a black marker and add in a bit of the same fuzziness in the same right hand area that we added the brown. To finish off the head, I'm going to go back with the yellow and add it in here and there where I see it needs it to bring out some of that bright yellow highlight area and make it more intense. We will now use a yellow Posca marker to work on the thorax of the bee. We will begin by laying in the first layer of this yellow. We will do this by adding in little hairs that are flowing down the side of the bee. We want these hairs to flow as if they were flowing from the head direction, or in other words, from left to right. In other words, as if they were starting on the left and flowing towards the right. So we want to layer this in and then let it dry before we go in with the next layer. We will now come in with an orange Posca marker, and similar to how we did on the head, we will add this orange in on the right side of the thorax, and we will do this in the form of a crescent. And we want to add in this orange in a similar way to how we added in the yellow in the initial layer of the thorax. We want to add it in like little fine hairs. We will now come back with the yellow Posca marker, and we will add this in as a second layer to the yellow. We want this yellow on the lower front of the thorax to be really bright and very vibrant and yellow, so that's why I'm adding in another layer of this color. Once that yellow has dried, we will come back with white and we will add just a bit, as you can see I'm doing right there on the front of the thorax, to have the appearance of light hitting that spot and it being very bright. We will now use a yellow Posca marker to color in the abdomen of the bee in a similar manner to how we colored in the thorax. We will do the same for the abdomen, not filling in the space all the way with yellow marker. We will now use a orange Posca marker, and in the same manner as we did with the thorax, we will add in an orange edge over here on the right hand side, and we want it to mix in with the yellow, not having a hard edge at the edge on the inside edge, but instead gradually blending and mixing in with the yellow. I will now come in with more yellow and add another layer up here near the front to make this area brighter and more vibrant. Now it's time to come in with white, and we will do this at the front edge of the abdomen, and we want it to blend into the yellow. We will now come in with our brown marker, and we will add the rings around the abdomen of the bee. This brown will be used as the initial layer for the rings. Later on, we will be adding black to this. We want these rings to curve around as if they were going all the way around the bee. We will now use black to add in the darker part of these rings, and we don't want to cover up the brown all the way. We want this black to be more like hairs and not solid rings of black. I've also added a little bit of black right at the intersection of the thorax and abdomen, as if there were a shadow there, so that we can see a division between the two bodies. We will start the work on the wings and the legs by grabbing a brown Posca marker, and we will trace these with this color. We will use a yellow Posca marker to add a highlight on the front edge of these wings and legs. This will also contribute to the glowing effect that we're going for with this bee. And like I said, we will do this to the front sides of the wings and legs. For the wings, we will add a little bit of a shimmering effect by adding lines to the wings. As you can see I'm doing now, we're just adding sparse lines, and we will do this with dark blue. Using a bit of white, I will come on the front of the wings and add a small highlight of white to make them even brighter. Now that the dark blue has dried on the wings, we can now come in with light blue and add a little bit of these lines in there, dragging the lines out towards the outer edge of the wings. Be careful not to overdo it, because it is very tempting to overdo it and add too much paint. Well, the last things we will do is grab a white Posca and we will come on the very front edge and add a little bit of white here to the front edge of the legs to emphasize the highlight here. And we don't want to add too much and overdo it. Now the white was added to the left side of the legs, and now we will take a blue and add it to the right side, or in other words, the lower part of the legs. This is meant to show a shadow in this area and make the legs look more three-dimensional. Now that we've finished our bee, we're going to go in with sea green to start coloring in our flowers, and these flowers will be long and wispy. We basically want to add lines similar to how we did with the initial layer when we sketched in the flowers. So what you would do is start at the base of the flower and use long wispy strokes. Try to have the far end of the flower be wispy and free, and it's okay to add a few wispy flower petals like I'm doing that are flowing in the wind. Once the first layer of Posca paint has dried, we can go in with a second layer because we want these flowers to be nice and vibrant. Now that we have added in the first layer of Posca Marker using the sea green and we have allowed it time to dry, we will now come in with additional layers and we will start out with blue, the darker blue, and we will start by working from the base of the flowers going up. We want more blue to be located at the base of the flowers and gradually diminish as it goes towards the top of them. That way we leave the tips of the flowers brighter, and we will add all this blue by adding these lines the same way that we added the previous layer of sea green. Alright, now we'll go in with a black Posca marker, and we're going to focus on the lower part of the flowers near the base. So what we will do is drag this black from the very base of the flowers out and upwards a bit, and we will drag these lines about halfway up the length of the flower, and I encourage you to try to have them feather out. In other words, as you're dragging the marker upwards, try to lift it gradually and feather it out so that as you get to the end of the line, it gets thinner and more wispy. Now that we've added in this blue and also the black, we will allow these paints time to dry. We will now come in with an orange Posca marker, and we're going to use this color to make our flowers glow and appear that they have flames or a bit of fire at the ends of them. So what we will do is we will start at the top of the flowers, and we will drag lines downwards, lines of orange down into our flower about halfway, and it can stop. And the same as we did with the black, we want our orange to feather out a bit and merge into the black Posca that we previously added on the flowers. And you may need to add a layer or two right at the tip of the flowers to get that orange really intense, so feel free to add 2 or 3 layers of the orange. After this, we will go in with a yellow Posca marker, and we will add this right at the tips of the flowers, and we will drag this down, and this will also contribute to the effect that they look like they're glowing. So I'm just going in and dragging some yellow out here and there, dragging it into the orange, and I'm not going to take it all the way down into the very base of the flower, just a little ways in, even less than I did with the orange. Mainly we're adding this yellow to the tips of the flowers. We will finish this class by coloring in the stems and leaves of our flowers. So to start, we will use a green Posca marker, the darker green that you should have. And we're simply going to come and color in the stems and leaves that we previously sketched. We will now grab a light green Posca marker, and we will use this color to add a bit of a highlight to the right side of our leaves and stems. We just want a bit of a streak along the sides of some of the stems, and for the leaves we will go around them, tracing the outline of the leaves, and also adding in a few of the veins of the leaves. Now that the light green has had time to dry, we're going to come back with an orange marker, and we're going to go basically in the same area that we added the light green, and add in a bit of this orange just to accentuate the idea that there's a light growing and bouncing light off of the bee and flowers and stems. So we don't want to cover the light green all the way. Have it tossed in here and there where you see fit. Next we will come in with a blue marker, and we will add this to the left side of our stem in order to indicate that there's a bit of a shadow on that side, because where there's light, there's always going to be a bit of a shadow somewhere. So you can see me adding it in to the right side and lower sides of the leaves. So with that, we have finished our drawing of the bee and flowers using Posca markers. I really like how mine came out, and I look forward to seeing your work. This has been a fun project, and I hope you will join me again for another Posca drawing in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this class and were able to learn something from it. Please feel free to post a picture of your drawing so that all of us can see what you did. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to start a discussion below this video, and I will be happy to answer your questions. If you would like to support me, please check out my website at www.andysartitude.com and feel free to visit me on Instagram and Facebook, where you can see daily updates of my artwork at Andy's Artitude. Stick around here and follow me, because in the coming weeks I will be uploading more classes. That's been it for now. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you in the next class.